Hello, I'm Dan. I'm a junior doctor working in London, and today we're talking about locuming. So if you're not a medic, locuming is essentially freelancing, and junior doctors that train in the UK have the opportunity to locum once they've done the first 2 years of mandatory training, or F1 and F2. If you want to see my video on my F1, then have a look at this one up here. This is becoming more and more popular for many reasons, but today I just want to talk about locuming and how to get the most out of locuming, because in my experience, having done it for a few years now, there is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. So being a locum doctor means that you don't have a contract, and essentially you turn up to work, you work your hours, and you get paid for those hours. So that comes with pros and cons. You get to choose when you have a shift. There's much more flexibility. You can choose whether you do nights or days or what specialty you work in, but there is no annual leave and sick pay. So to make up for this, the pay is often higher when you're a locum doctor. And it's this higher pay that I think a lot of doctors get quite excited about, and a lot of people in the medical community get really excited about locuming for this reason. I remember as an F1 and an F2, I just thought as soon as I get locuming, then it will all be alright. And actually, that's not the case. But it does help, and there is definitely a way that you can make locuming work for you, and today I just want to explore that. I personally have locumed. I've done it for 3 years across a number of specialties, and I found it really quite an enjoyable way of working. Managed to do some good work and treat patients whilst also governing a good wage and having the flexibility of no contracts. So when I finished my F2, I moved back home to London, and I was locuming for about 2 months before I ended up taking a full-time job as a clinical fellow on a paediatric intensive care unit at St George's in London. And it was in these couple of months that I learned how to not locum. So the fact that I was earning £35 an hour, I thought was going to solve all my problems. But actually what happened was I ended up signing up with an agency. I worked across 4 or 5 hospitals, worked across 2 or 3 different specialties, and had no structure to my week. I didn't know any of my colleagues, and ultimately I really hated it. It was really stressful, and if you put it like that, then it kind of sounds quite stressful, doesn't it? I'd be the urology on call SHO here, I'd be the breast surgeon SHO there, and I'd had all these new logins. I didn't know any of the systems, I didn't know any of my colleagues, and I really just felt like a locum. So shortly after this, I took a fellow job, and that was on PICU, as I've mentioned. That was a great job, and there's going to be a summary of that job coming very soon, so subscribe. So I did 6 months on a contract there, and then following that, I ended my contract, but I actually stayed on as a doctor on the unit and was locuming. So I was then choosing my shifts, and actually this was when I realised how good locuming could be. So at this point, I was now locuming within a unit that I knew. I was doing a job that I'd done for 6 months beforehand. I knew everyone on the unit. I knew how the unit worked. I already had my cards. I knew my logins. I had an email address. All of these things that seem so small, but actually if you add them up, they're horrible to deal with. I didn't feel like an extra. I felt part of the team. I had a great rapport with some of the consultants, so ended up getting loads of teaching, and ultimately the unit really appreciated me because I was reliable. They knew they could count on me, and I was filling in gaps that otherwise would go unfilled. So I worked on the bank rather than in an agency, and agencies do have their benefits in that you can get, work across multiple hospitals and only have to do your sign up or your mass training once. But I think it's just seen better, and if a hospital sees that you're on the bank, they definitely prefer to hire from their own bank than agency. At my hospital, the bank actually gave a higher rate, so that was a bonus as well. So the PICU jobs sort of came to an end, and after that I then took what I knew and then applied that going forward. And I boiled these down to 3 things. Firstly, I joined the bank. Again, like I mentioned, I think a hospital is probably more inclined to book you if you're on their bank than if you're agency. The next thing was that I looked for long-term locums. So I was keen to try and find a locum job that was going to be there for at least 3 to 6 months. This meant that I could spend the first month getting to know the people, getting to know the job, getting all signed up with my cards and everything, and then I could after that just focus on the work. And this worked. This makes you feel more part of the team. It makes you feel less like just a locum, and actually you get into a groove, you get into a habit, and you get good at your job, and it's much more rewarding than just doing the odd job here and there across multiple specialties. And then the last thing that I learned, which kind of I've learned as time's gone on, maybe I'm just getting more burnt out, but I think locuming, the beauty of it is that you don't have to work as much. I think people see the hourly rate and they think, oh, that's brilliant, and they just work so much. But I found that the sort of sweet spot for me is when I'm working about 4 days a week if you're locuming, you can get a good wage for that, and then you can have some actual decent time off. Evening shifts are my favourite, so 3 till 11 or 2 till 10. I love those kinds of shifts. It means that I can get stuff done in the morning, go to the gym, and then equally I can get home at a time that's not completely outrageous and doesn't completely disrupt my sleep pattern. So just find what works for you. Equally, I'm saying this as a doctor that doesn't have a mortgage and doesn't have kids. So this isn't for everyone. I wouldn't encourage everyone to just go full-time locum. It's not for everyone, and I think as I'm getting older, I see both sides of the argument, but equally just some people just prefer having a steady income and they just know that that's the money they're going to get, and that's fine as well. For me, I've really enjoyed it. There is definitely a right and a wrong way for me to do it, but let me know what you think. Are you locuming at the moment? Have you done it before, or do you prefer doing a contract job? And yeah, I hope that was informative. If it was, please comment down below what you thought and give me a like. Subscribe for more. We're going to be talking about my F2 jobs in the next video, and then we'll also be doing a PICU job at some point as well. So going back through my junior doctor years and looking at those. Hopefully see you soon, and see you in the next video. Cheers. Bye.